Welcome everyone, and thank you for taking the time to join me today. Today, we are going to explore some core elements of human motivation. As an educator with over a decade in the classroom, I have seen firsthand how critical it is to understand what truly drives our students. We all know that motivation is the engine of success, but very rarely do we stop to analyze the specific psychological components that make up that engine. We are going to discuss how we can help others resolve motivation-related issues in their everyday lives by applying established academic theories to real-world challenges. By examining practical, first-hand experiences, we will see how taking a theoretical approach to problem-solving can create lasting and positive changes in behavior rather than just temporary compliance. Keeping motivation high is a challenge across all areas of our lives. It is hard for us as adults when we are juggling our professional responsibilities and our personal goals. It is incredibly hard for our students when they are constantly trying to learn outside of their comfort zones. Let us think about the typical school year. The mental and physical demands placed on both teachers and students are extremely high. We face decision fatigue, sensory overload, and constant academic pressure. Then, during the summer, many external supports like teacher praise, daily structure, and peer interaction disappear entirely. This sudden shift often leaves people feeling unmoored and completely unmotivated to continue their growth. Today, I am going to walk you through two recent experiences I had motivating others. We are going to look at one adult fitness challenge and one middle school math challenge. I chose these two specific cases because they represent very different motivational barriers. The adult is facing physical burnout, while the student is facing cognitive anxiety. Through these two distinct stories, we will explore practical ways to get motivation back on track. We will discuss actionable strategies you can apply to the individuals you work with. To do this, we will rely on two powerful frameworks, the causal attribution theory and the expectancy value theory. I want to start by sharing a story about an adult learner I will refer to as Sarah. Sarah is a middle school math teacher who recently set a very ambitious fitness goal. She wanted to row a half marathon on a Concept 2 rowing machine. I actually completed this exact same goal during my first year of rowing, and I eventually joined the Million Meter Club, so I know firsthand exactly how much endurance and mental fortitude this specific machine requires. Sarah is incredibly dedicated and gives 110% every single day in her classroom. She understands the complex mechanics of rowing and genuinely wants to put in the work required to reach her goal. But that intense dedication to her teaching career comes with a heavy physical and mental price. When Sarah would get home from work and sit on the rower, she was just completely wiped out. The main thing holding her back was not her skill level or her rowing mechanics. It was simply being exhausted from the demanding day of teaching middle schoolers. Because she was so tired, her expectation of success would drop to zero almost immediately. She could not focus on essential things like maintaining a steady pace or a consistent stroke rate. She would become frustrated quickly and usually give up before the training session really got started. Initially, we tried powering through rigid workouts the second we got home. We hoped to just get the workout over with before the exhaustion fully set in. That approach completely failed. It just increased her frustration and turned the rowing machine into another exhausting chore at the end of an already long day. This triggered even more avoidance behavior. The main issue became how she reacted to those missed workouts. She started blaming herself and feeling like she was just lazy. She was internalizing the failure, which is the most dangerous thing you can do for long-term motivation. This brings us to a concept by Wiener called the causal attribution theory. This theory explains that how we explain our successes and failures directly impacts our future motivation and behavior. It breaks down into three distinct parts. First is the locus of causality. When you fail, are you blaming something inside yourself like your own intelligence, or an outside source like an unfair test? Second is stability. Is the barrier a permanent problem that will never change, or is it a temporary condition? Finally, there is controllability. Do you feel you have the actual power to change the cause of the problem, or are you entirely at the mercy of your environment? Sarah was treating her exhaustion like a permanent, internal flaw. We had to change that mindset. We used a strategy called attributional retraining to help her realize her exhaustion was entirely external and temporary. We noted that her fatigue practically disappears on school breaks. We took advantage of a relaxed summer trip to reset her training, focusing entirely on form without the pressure of our daily routines. Once home, we kept that momentum going by having brief talks before and after each workout. We also heavily tracked her daily Concept 2 data to highlight small gains in her split times. Changing the story she told herself, and backing it up with data, made all the difference in her persistence. Now let us look at the classroom side of things. I want to talk about a student I will call Mark. Mark is heading into 7th grade math next year. He is twice exceptional, meaning he is identified as gifted but also has an IEP. Mark has a very low tolerance for frustration. When he hits a new math concept he does not immediately understand, his expectation of success plummets. He lacks the motivation to review his math facts and preview new concepts because the fear of failure is so incredibly strong. For a gifted student, the gap between what they know they can understand and what they are currently struggling with can be agonizing. When Mark loses confidence, he becomes discouraged and completely shuts down to avoid the discomfort. Traditional rewards like extra screen time or an increased allowance did not work for him. These external carrots did not address his underlying anxiety. They also failed to provide the actual instructional support he needed to feel capable of succeeding. Because the root cause was emotional and cognitive, these simple incentives ended up triggering more avoidance behavior and frustration. You cannot bribe a student out of genuine academic anxiety. To help Mark, I turned to the expectancy value theory researched by Wigfield and Eccles. This theory tells us that a person's motivation depends on two main pillars. First, how well they think they will do on the task, and second, how much they actually value the task itself. The model breaks task value into four parts: attainment value, intrinsic value, utility value, and cost. Attainment value is the personal importance of doing well, while intrinsic value is the simple enjoyment of the activity. Utility value relates to how useful the task is for future goals, and cost is the negative side of participating. As the required effort or emotional exhaustion acts as a behavioral cost, the subjective value of the task goes down rapidly. Mark was avoiding math because the emotional cost of being frustrated was simply too high. I designed a summer math routine for him consisting of brief 30-minute sessions 3 times a week. We started with easy wins using Delta Math to build his confidence safely before tackling harder material. I provided intense support on the difficult concepts so he would not hit that wall of frustration, creating a safe learning environment. To make the harder concepts more engaging and lower the cost, I gamified the practice. We worked on complex systems of equations with fractions, but we framed it inside a pirate-themed math activity. He had to find exact non-standard coordinate meeting points like Lookout Point and Kraken's Abyss. This shifted the focus from a stressful worksheet to a hands-on puzzle. We also constantly connected the work to his personal goal of making it into honors algebra in 8th grade. This drastically increased the utility value and kept him deeply engaged. Taking a step back from these two very different experiences, we can pull out 4 practical strategies that any educator, parent, or leader can use across content areas. First, help people reframe their setbacks. Guide learners to attribute their struggles to temporary, controllable factors instead of permanent personal flaws. Second, track the small wins using objective data to provide concrete feedback. Visible progress is the ultimate antidote to self-doubt. Third, scaffold the learning process with easy early wins to protect confidence and lower the emotional cost of frustration. Fourth, connect hard work to meaningful future goals to increase the utility value of the task. Do not assume students know why a lesson matters. You have to tell them. I plan to take all of this directly into my instructional planning next year. My school is changing our schedule to include 20-minute blocks to work with small groups of students to help them get back on track. I am going to use that time to implement these exact strategies. I will provide those easy wins and intense support for students who have internalized negative feelings about math. Even as I take on the role of math department lead and coordinator next year, my primary professional goal is to remain right here in the classroom as a teacher. I do not want to move exclusively into an administrative or coaching role because the classroom is where the real impact happens. I plan to use my CCCs to share this formative data and these motivational models with my colleagues so we can systematically help students school-wide. Whether you are helping an adult reach a fitness goal or helping a student conquer their math anxiety, motivation comes down to managing expectations and values. By shifting our focus from simple rewards and punishments to understanding the root cognitive causes of behavior, we can make a tremendous difference in outcomes. Thank you so much for your time today. I highly encourage you to try these 4 strategies with the learners in your own life to help them reach their full potential.